Good afternoon, everyone. Gabe Velazquez here with you, transparenttrading-solutions.com on a Tuesday. This is first day of October. Obviously, everybody knows what's happening in the Middle East. That's set off some selling this afternoon. Let's get right into the charts again. Subscribe to the newsletter. I actually wrote about how the charts were kind of suggesting a pullback was imminent. Subscribe to the newsletter. Do give some, some areas to look at, some actionable type of situation. So go ahead and subscribe to that. And let's get right into the charts. I'm putting together another class coming up. So make sure you look at that, especially coming up with the volatility. I think there's some volatility coming in the next, clearly with everything going on, the VIX jumping. So actually, I'd like to start with the VIX real quick here. I've been talking about the VIX possibly starting a new trading regime here between 15 and 20. I've written about it back in, in a higher volatility environment. Usually the VIX bottoms at 15, goes generally from, maybe 20, mid 20s to 30s, and then outliers, which we saw in August. Those are an outlier, meaning that these are very rare, but you never know. Could something happen again like this? Of course. But anyways, this is something. So if you were looking at the VIX for some kind of indication, how high can we go? We topped at 20 today, by the way, came off. Is that going to be enough? We'll see. I do believe maybe we get up into the mid 20s this go around, especially if things worsen in obviously that the situation is starting to deteriorate in the Middle East. We'll see what happens there. Surprisingly, and again, the NASDAQ, the S&P basically, didn't really do much after all that. We just came right into the, if you think about the S&P, just basically came right to the where we had broken out from before here, the old support resistance kind of lines here, and saw a little bit of a bounce. Generally not a huge, you would think you'd have a much bigger reaction. And that leaves us pretty much where we were all week last week, just simply just chopping around. No follow through. Anybody's chased this again to the short side is not doing too well. Whether it actually breaks down, we'll have to see. Bottom line is 5,700, and even just these lows from tonight, you can see we just came right up to that pivot, and we should be able to fill this gap at some point coming up. Wouldn't surprise me at all if we come down and fill this gap right around 5,600. But so far, bulls are, the buyers are still hanging tough. Aside from the mega caps, these are still languishing. The NASDAQ was the biggest hit. We also bounced off of this kind of basing pattern here. You see, we catching a little bit of a bounce. We got a gap and then some lower levels. But overall, it's just been a choppy, still very choppy, still no follow through. What's going to get this thing to really fall off? Maybe the jobs number on Friday. If it's really, really weak, we'll have to see how that goes. We also have a strike going on, by the way, which could add to the inflation pressures as well, and then oil spiking. So it's a very tricky situation, from a trading perspective. Volatility is jumping, which is a good thing. So everything else really, we got the Russell pulling back now, and the Dow also, with the defense stocks in the Dow, it's very similar, just very choppy. Bitcoin really got hit, which was really interesting. It probably is, like, of all the asset classes, in terms of risk on asset classes, Bitcoin was the one that actually took the biggest hit today, which could be the canary in the coal mine, I have to tell you. So we'll see how that goes. There's a level down in here, and then that's a gap to fill. So this is going to be an interesting development here with Bitcoin. Rates did jump initially on a flight to safety, but ended up pretty much unchanged from where we were here, this little box I drew. And then, all the obvious, flight to safety type of trades, dollar at the top of the range, all the currency, all the safe haven currencies like the yen and so forth also moved higher a little bit. And then, gold did try to, rally and then come off a little bit here. So gold, silver, all moving slightly higher, not a big deal. Kind of really quiet reactions on the metals, and I think this was kind of a stronger dollar. And then, again, the usual attempt at a rally in oil, and it came right to the 72 level and kind of sold off a little bit. So the fact that the whole situation was contained. They did fire off some missiles, and they pretty much intercepted all of them. I think the next shoe to drop is going to be what Israel, how they respond. That's going to be the next leg higher. The next shoe to drop, and could have some major implications as well. Everything else really, nat gas just very, very quiet. Nothing going on there. Been talking about the grain markets. They also attempted a little bit of a rally, maybe on, just generally they've been setting up for some bullish trends, but again, no follow through to speak of. But these are starting to really perk up here. I think the grains are the next, commodity to really move higher, just setting up on the charts and so forth. Obviously, buying low somewhere down along here, in retrospect, would be the best play. But that's obviously based on again, these are all adjusted charts, so not necessarily actionable because of the adjustments in retrospect always look great, but that's not always the case when you're actually trying to trade in the and the front month contracts and so forth. So in any event, we'll see what happens. We've got non-farm payrolls on Friday, and further developments now that this situation in the Middle East. What tends to happen is there's this kind of back and forth, volleys between the, Israel and, Iran and the proxies, Hezbollah and Houthis and all that other Houthis or whatever they call them. But then there's a quiet period. So maybe also we get into a little bit of a quiet period, and then the market maybe turns back to earnings and so forth. So we'll see. In any event, look at the VIX. I think that the VIX jumps to, I don't think today was a panicky day. I think we're going to need some panicky type of selling to maybe put in a short-term bottom, and then with the elections coming up as well. So I expect a lot of volatility, but then with that comes a lot of opportunity. So, okay. All right. Have a great rest of your week. I'll see you on Friday. Take care.